Thank you.
Well, thank you. You bring up a very valid point as far as the individual license holders. It's very difficult for us to be able to get into the home and inspect, similar to what I spoke about with our dealers and our sales of guns and ammunition. To be quite honest, we usually come across an individual who we have problems with is due to an incident that may occur. The law doesn't stipulate we don't have the resources to start checking on all of our licensees and make sure that they're adhering to the guidelines and the laws. And one of those you brought up is that the firearm must be secured properly. That is a requirement under the law, and also good gun ownership. But to your point, we don't have an opportunity to go and check on each individual licensee. The officers are aware if we come across a licensee which has concerns to us during a call or during an incident, that gets reported directly to us or reported to that community in which they do have a license, and then usually actions are taken at that time.
Kids, safety. Within 30 miles of where we said our country began its independence, Buckland's Tavern in Concord. We weren't armed, we couldn't persuade the British to leave our country. They wouldn't listen when we talked to them. We had to go to the next level. To that next level, I'd like to address what the councilor mentioned, was security in school. When you are toe-to-toe with an assailant, the next 3 seconds of your life matter. Assailants do not allow you the parliamentary procedure of a 911 phone call. And if you could make that phone call, you're north of 2 to 4 minutes for someone to come. Luckily, you got a guy in the area, you can get somebody to you within 2 minutes. But the point is, toe-to-toe with an assailant, you don't get a phone call. Your survival depends on your mindset, your ability and desire to survive that next couple of seconds. You address that at your own level. That's an individual choice as to how much you want to live and protect your loved ones as leaders of your particular flock and family. We spend a lot of time and money on fire drills and police training to come into a school, Columbine for instance, and locate the aggressors and neutralize them. We spend zero money teaching teachers to fight back in that instance of 3 seconds face to face. One armed teacher. Texas is already arming teachers. Michigan, 4 days ago, removed the gun-free zone from schools. So anybody can enter a school zone with a firearm provided you're legal. Well, criminals don't obey no fire zones. Criminals obey gun laws like politicians follow campaign promises. I think we ought to spend more money educating teachers to stand up, fight back. It was a horrible tragedy, and I would guarantee you that one teacher that charged that kid unarmed, her kid's hiding in the closet. If she was armed, that thing would have stopped right then and there. The spirit that drove her forward, that woman was a wolf, she was a leader, she was the head of her family, she protected our communities with her children in that instance. We need to spend a little more time on teachers learning to perhaps fight back. We have plenty of veterans coming back who would love to be in our schools. And again, not in a militaristic setting, but somebody there. When I was in high school, we had plenty of teachers that I would trust them with a firearm. You don't want to trust your kids to a teacher. Why would you trust a teacher with a firearm? We trust our kids with our teachers every day. I'd like to see our teachers know that they can fight back aggressively, more than just a phone call and a hi. Thank you very much for your time. We deeply appreciate it.
DCS Mental Health here in Natick. We offer outpatient counseling services to everyone that's seek it. I just found out about this whole entire thing about 2 hours ago, so I'm not as prepared as I'd like to be. The second hat that you also wear is I'm also an NRA instructor. I'm also a valid licensed carry. And two things that a bunch of people have mentioned. A lot of talk about gun laws. Well, I just want to put some things into perspective quickly. My statement is more of a statement and a comment rather than a question, so I'll be brief. There were 2 gun laws that people are talking about. They're talking about assault weapons. They're also talking about school firearms in schools, and there is a law. Connecticut had an assault weapons ban, and I just want, a lot of people didn't know that. Criminals don't follow laws. It's a repetitive statement that people in my position often make. But there was another law, that's the Gun-Free School Zone Act, which has been law for years, and it doesn't help people. So we have to think of a more proactive way how to stop these incidents, because you got to understand, regardless, they're not going to follow these laws. And there has been a lot of talk about guns and questions about gun shops and the zoning. Is that really the right path to go right now? Because the same day in China, there was a stabbing of multiple students. Was that a firearm? No. I see it every day at work. Like I said, I'm the director of operations at a mental health outpatient clinic. I see the problems of this community every single day at work. There's a lot of different people here today, but my job is literally involved going to work every single day, and we try to fix those
Good
problems.
evening.
We try to help
The library will be
problems.
closing promptly in 15 minutes at 9 p.m. If you have any material to check out, please come to the circulation desk at this time.
The access is to mental health, and I'm sure Dr. Gordon will agree. It's very difficult. The wait lists around here, there needs to be, maybe you should focus instead of firearms, a lot of talk about mental health. Well, let's focus on the mental health portion, and that seems to be a large concern. Just today, I had to refer someone elsewhere because they were moving, and a lot of places have extremely long wait lists. We're actually a relatively new facility, and I'm not sure if any of you have heard of us, but the reason we're here is because of an 8-month study that I did 2 years ago as director of marketing for the company of where should we put our new clinic. And I called all around the state, different outpatient clinics, and I came to natick area, which had a 6-month wait list, which I think is completely unacceptable for psychiatric services, especially for children. Just today, I actually, we had a client that was discharged from our facility, and we had to send them somewhere else. And Dr. Gordon, you're with that, I think I understand. They couldn't even tell me when a child would be able to be placed with a psychiatrist. And I mean, that's to no fault of his own or any agency, as I can tell you right now, it's extremely difficult to get these services, not because of it's just simply not available. There's not many people here that the profession itself, it's difficult to access services. Also, wanted to get into the insurance companies not giving authorizations for this treatment. So there's a lot of things that you need to look at here. But one thing I do want to mention is I don't understand the logic between locking someone in a room unarmed. Another thing that was mentioned was having them evacuate. Now you have to think of the logic of having unarmed students, unarmed teachers, leaving a school without any method of protecting themselves. That's something that needs to be thought of, and I'm sure it will be. However, I think there needs to be a much more active approach. As someone mentioned earlier, shooting off the lock. If that was an option, if that was something that was possible and they decided to do that, that's a very real situation where they understand that there's a bunch of defenseless people. Now, instead of advocating and spending time, resources, and money to looking into which gun laws are going to help, go back to my original statement where we did mention that those laws were not followed, the Gun-Free School Zones Act. Go back to the law where, the Connecticut Assault Weapons Ban Act. They're not going to follow the laws. So instead of, my opinion, instead of having all these time and resources to laws, let's find a more proactive approach to help make sure that this doesn't happen without making laws that restrict the law-abiding citizens like myself, and I'm sure everyone in this room, instead of trying to make these laws that are going to affect people that aren't going to follow them. So I think it might be wise to consider more proactive methods of protecting the children, that's what this meeting is all about, instead of making laws that may be ineffective. Thank you.
That when we have plumbing done in a house, gas being worked on in a house, that we have to get a permit. And they come back, and they have the right to come into your house, and that they have the right to check that. Can we not do that with guns? Can we not have some kind of law that says you have to store your gun in certain ways, and that the police department or those people that are overseas in your town can go into your house because you've taken out that permit and see how you're storing your weapons.
Good evening.
Ma'am.
I'm Brian Willis, a gun shop. here in
Well,
Natick.
sometimes it has.
I'm not going to talk about the laws. I will mention one phrase from the marketing professor I had. Reality is perception. Perception is reality. I'm going to offer my services to any group to show them exactly what a licensed gun owner has to go through to purchase a handgun or a long gun. If any groups would like to call me, I'm right over here on Washington Street. I would like to share the gun laws as I see them as a dealer and what I have to follow.